When I was younger, I always kind of knew I would find my niche in some way, shape, or form, and I didn't really know how. My dad was always in material science and engineering, so he kind of steered me towards that, and then I went to college for that, and then I started doing more and more gaming stuff and playing more and learning more about it, and then I did sales. I did door-to-door sales and used car sales, so I kind of knew I wanted to apply my sales knowledge to other things in life, and then transitioned that into gaming and turned my hobby into a career. And then I finally stopped going to college and committed full-time to esports, and it's been fun ever since. I mean, 5 years, no looking back. High school into college transition for me was pretty interesting because I moved from Holland back to the US when I was a freshman. So I jumped right into high school and then kind of started making friends with the older kids because I did a lot of dumb things in high school. And so I already had friends going into college, and then I went to Ohio State, which is basically where everybody from my school went. So I still had friends in college. And then I spent a lot of time in college partying and trying to learn what life was all about and what I wanted to do with my life, and then slowly started to do more and more with esports and transitioned my way out of college and didn't really want to continue it because I felt like I was wasting money. I figured if I was going to go and become an entrepreneur and do my own thing, I wasn't going to need to pay somebody else to teach me how to run my own business. I was just going to learn by doing and learn and grow myself and create my own experiences. And I think I've learned more in the last 5 years of running my own business than I had at any point in college. Obviously I learned certain things in college that I needed for life and to go through life experiences, and I really felt like college was more about kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with my life than figure out what degree I needed. When I was younger, I always played the little like Mage Knights and card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic cards, those kind of things, and transition like going over to friends' house and playing Xbox. So I played Xbox Halo 1 on Xbox, and then I finally got my dad to let me use the computer, and we started playing Half-Life, and I played Half-Life with my dad for 48 hours straight, and we beat the game when it came out. And then I transitioned to buying the mod. I think the first mod was a multiplayer mod. I think it was like one of the first multiplayer games for a PC, and played Counter-Strike I think it was 1.1 or 1.2 with one of my family friends at the time, and loved the game. And then kind of fizzled away from that and started playing Halo 1 on the computer, Halo 1 PC, and that game didn't really go anywhere. There was clan wars for it, and it wasn't very popular, so I didn't feel like I was getting much out of it, so I kind of concentrated on school at that point. And then I switched over to Counter-Strike and started having a lot more fun. There was a lot more competition, there was a lot more stuff going on. I went to my first LAN. And then finally, once I looped around and got out of like thinking that I couldn't make esports anything but a hobby, I started applying my knowledge of sales from door-to-door sales and car sales into esports and trying to get companies to work with us. And I was in a TeamSpeak working at the time for Vex Gaming as marketing, and I basically told the owner, I said, if you don't make these changes, we're gonna not be a good org. We're just gonna maintain this little bit that we have, this little community that we have. We're never gonna grow outside of it. And I told him, I said, if you don't make these changes, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'll be bigger than you in 3 months. And I did that. And then I think 12 months later, we won our first LAN event at a Call of Duty event, and then started working with Ray and did more stuff for that, and just kept growing. And now we're 5 years down the road, and I haven't looked back since. I used to play traveling soccer all the time, and then when I was 8 years old, I lost the ability to walk for 9 months. I had a leg virus on my quads, and I woke up Christmas morning and couldn't walk. I'd like crawl downstairs and tell my parents, and they thought I was trolling, and I wasn't. So I went through therapy for that, physical therapy, and then always gained weight from that point. So I've always been bigger now that I played football in high school and stuff. So that all those were about like mass building and being able to be a big boy. And I was a big kid. I was 6 foot and 230 pounds when I was playing football. So I was a big kid. But I let it get out of control after I met Amber, and kind of found the love of my life, and didn't really give a shit what other people thought. So I was like, oh well, I'll just gain a bunch of weight. I didn't think about that consciously, but I did, and I gained up to 300 pounds, and saw a picture that I hated at one point, and just said, fuck this, I'm not gonna weigh 300 pounds. I'm finally gonna commit to a diet. So I started talking to a bunch of people on Twitter and finding out different ways, watching YouTube videos, followed Jim Stepani, got into his diet, did 6 weeks to shred. For the first, I think 3 months, I think I lost 30 pounds, and then just kept adding to it, kept learning. I'm always a student of everything I try and do, so when I got into fitness, I tried to learn as much as I could, and kept pushing the envelope. And now I'm down to 238 pounds instead of almost 300, and I'm starting to learn more about fitness and figure out different ways I can push my body, and different ways I can diet, and different ways I can get down to my final goal, which is a six-pack. And that I've just become a student of fitness, and I love doing it. I love the people that I met because of it, and I think it's something that's really good for my life. And my wife's super happy because I'll be around longer to bug her for an even longer period of time. My wife and I met through friends, and our first date was on a motorcycle, and I'm nuts when it comes to motorcycles, so I won't say the speed it was, but it was stupid fast. And that was the moment that I realized that she was the girl I was going to stay with, because any girl that can put up with my shit and ride on the back of my motorcycle is good for me. And she's always, since day one, she's been about making my life better. So someone that can support you and grow with you is super important for me. Like, I met her before I started Denial, and I've grown this massive company with her. Like, she is my backbone, essentially. We have 2 dogs at home. Oliver, who's 110, 120 pound Bernese Mountain Dog, who has his own Instagram, which has more followers than me. I think it's like Ollie the Burner, and Amber handles that. And then we have a Husky who I've had for 4 or 5 years now, before Amber. And we have Sky, who I've had for 5 years now, and she's a typical Siberian Husky. She's got her aggressive turns, and she had really bad food aggression when I adopted her. She was actually in the wild at one point, so she had to fight for food. And then we adopted her. It was actually a funny story, because I didn't want a female dog at that point. I wanted a male, and they said, well, if you don't adopt this dog, we're going to put her down tomorrow. So I was proposed with that. So that's why I have Sky to this day. Sky, S-K-Y-Y, named after the vodka, funny enough. And I had a cat at that point that was named Soka after Southern Comfort. So I was a college kid, to say the least. I love Columbus. Columbus has always been my home. I've bounced around a lot as a kid. I lived in Holland for 2 years. I grew up in New York for 9 years. I was born in Liverpool, England. I lived in Newark, Ohio. I lived in Newburgh, New York. I've just moved a lot, but Columbus has always been like the nest, so to speak. And my parents are probably going to be there forever now, even though they were born in London and born in Holland. So that's home base. And I just like it. It's got perfect 4 seasons. It's not always 70 degrees and sunny like California, so sometimes it's not as nice. But I like snow, and I like the difference of the seasons and how everything goes. So Columbus is a good home base for me.
What's your experience like being here at the CSGO house?
I like this house. I like the guys that we're working with. I think my experience with Team House has been awful up until this point. We had a Team House in Columbus, and it wasn't utilized at all. The team didn't do a very good job of capitalizing on the opportunity. But I think this team's different. I think this team has gone through some ups and downs. They've been screwed over by another org and hadn't have the best experience. But I think we as an organization and with this team can really grow it into a winning team. And I've spent a lot of time in Counter-Strike kind of learning the landscape and working with a bunch of different teams. And these guys have what it takes. We just need to put everything together and get the puzzles to fit in the right places. My name is Robby Ringnalda and I'm the CEO of Denial Esports.